And I see this opportunity here as truly a new beginning for something great. And so I want to thank every and anyone who had a hand in the old show being pulled. I want to thank Maddie Alexio. I want to thank Cameron Simonet. I want to thank Ed Fields and anyone else who had any kind of role in that whole situation, because it was supposed to happen. Because had it not happened, I would still be in that place settling for less than I deserved. So thank you to everyone who had a role in getting me here today. Thank you. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And obviously, thank you, Mr. Pierre DePuch, for the role that you played in bringing that situation to the fore. But I don't want to spend any more time talking about old things, because it's a new day, a new time, and I'm excited about the future. What does 2021 look like for you? What are you anticipating for this year?
Well, it's going to have to be a lot of changes. I don't like to be negative about anything, but unless the government changes their attitude about a lot of things, we're going to be in trouble. I always tell people, and I know it's not very popular, but I would say that Donald Trump runs a second to our people in lying.
Yikes.
He hasn't got the ability to tell the truth.
And he run a second?
And he's running a
good Lord.
Close second.
Help us, Father.
In my opinion, I am very disappointed. I told you said just now, I spent 25 years in the House of Assembly. That's where I first met you, and when you were a reporter for The Guardian. So
for ZNS. Yes.
You know what we went through, the rocks and the bottles and everything else we ducked for many years. And even many years before I got into in the frontline politics, I was always in the background. I think I first ran for Parliament in 1962. I was 24 years old, and I'd just come home from school for 6 months before. And that election I lost. But I won every other one from 82 on. And I sometimes sit down and say, was it worth it? Because very little of what we stood for is being practiced today. A lot of the people who in those days used to come and say, look, did you know this, do something about it, but don't call my name. And I'd go out there and I'd say something about it, and the rocks and the bottles would come. And now I find these very people doing exactly the same thing.
My Lord.
So it was sometimes I wonder whether people really wanted good change for good, or they just wanted a piece of the action. I don't know. I don't know. So I'm not as enthusiastic about it as you are.
Why is freedom of the press so important to democracy?
Well, as I was saying to you earlier, freedom of the press, democracy, is based on choices. And choices are based on facts, because you have to make a decision as to whether this is right and this is wrong and what have you. But you take America today, and a large part the Bahamas, but you take particularly America today, you aren't getting facts. So you can't make decisions. The mob makes a decision for you. So some old professor of mine, 60 some odd years ago, said, it's mobocracy, it's not democracy. So you have the mob out there. It's very, very important. I think your position is far more important to democracy than any government can ever have, simply because it's your job to tell the facts, whether you like them or you don't like them. The old man used to say that our family was criticized more in the newspaper, in the Tribune, than anywhere else, because he always carried the letters to the editor and what have you, and they would call us everything but a child of God. But this was the way it was. People had to make choices, and people had to get facts. And so, as I said before, your facts, you're short on facts now. A lot of it's emotion. I'm a PLP, and therefore everything the PLP says
Tribe.
is right, and I'm an F&M.
Tribalism. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing in the United States. I'm a Democrat, and everything Democrats say, and if you, even with Americans, some of my American friends, you talk to them, and you have to be very careful what you say, because if they're Democrat and you say something that tends to be Republican, they get all uptight about it.
Let me tell you, I have a very, very, very dear friend, American. Our friendship goes way, way, way back, and he's a Trump supporter. And after a couple of arguments between the two of us, I said to him, you know something? I value you as a friend. I really love you as a friend, and I will not allow Donald Trump to ruin our friendship. So from this day forward, we're not going to discuss Trump and politics, because that can break up this friendship.
But you see, it should come to the point where you aren't discussing individuals. You're discussing principles and facts. Now, is this fact right? For example, a lot of the things Donald Trump said he stood for, I believe in. For example, I believe that you should have your borders protected.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have all these people coming in from our borders. The people like say Haitians, and I don't like to use that term, because it reminds me too much of people say, these blacks or these whites or these whatever.
Right, right.
But you have to protect your borders. You can't let everybody come in because you've set up your economy in a certain way. I believe that China took advantage, gross advantage, of this free trade thing. And I never agreed with it. And I believe that it was hurting Americans. And I agree with them on that. But it's sometimes not what you say, it's how you say it, or not what you do, it's how you do it, And this man was completely immoral. You couldn't trust anything he said. So you really don't know what he stood for. And yet, today is the same thing.
And yet, you give him a second to what's going on here in the Bahamas? That, my God.
Simply because you take this oil situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have people convinced that this is a PLP thing. It's not true. It's just not true. If you check the facts, and later I'll show you some of them.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, the PLP originally started this thing, these talks, this man.
Mm-hmm.
But their agreements fell out.
Expired.
Expired.
So somebody had to renew it,
He didn't pay a whole pile of money.
Right.
Okay, now. So somebody had to renew it. Okay, now. I can tell you this letter here, that the minister, Farrar, is it?
Mm-hmm.
He had a meeting with the real stakeholders, like the divers and people like that who do the things with the fish. And he swore to them that he would not, the cabinet would never let oil drilling happen in the Bahamas. A short while later, he wrote the man, and I can show you the letter. He wrote the man, this Potter character, and said, start drilling. Now,
duplicitous.
He had to say, he was acting, I assume, as the Minister of Environment.
Mm-hmm.
And he was assuming that the cabinet disapproved of this. But for him to tell him to go ahead, the best commission had to tell him. Now, who had the best commission? What ministry was the best commission in? The minister, the prime minister.
Mm-hmm.
So how does he say he doesn't want drilling on the one hand, and the best commission he controls tells Ferrer to write the people and give them permission to do it, and then turn around and tell us, the Bahamian people believing we're stupid, that this is a PLP thing. It just doesn't add up to me.
Yeah, 2 and 2 don't make 4 no more, Mr. DeBuch.
That's the problem.
These people learn to come to the graveyard. Oh. That's all I could say, because they honestly, one of the things that really annoys me to no end is how these modern day politicians take sport in insulting my intelligence. Mm-hmm. Like, you think I'm stupid enough to believe any crap you try to shove down my throat.
Exactly.
And anybody who dares to stand up and say, wait a minute now, this emperor ain't wearing no clothes, all of a sudden you ostracized.
That's right.
You're the problem.
That's right.
But we cannot advance as a nation if we continue to play these games.
But we have to understand that you and I and everybody, all of us have fault here. We blame the politicians. We put them there. We put them there. And if we're effing them, we will not vote against them. And if we're PLPs, we won't vote against them. So we're asking for what we're getting, and it's going to get worse rather than better.
That's deep. Okay. I forgot to give out the telephone number and the text line. So those numbers, usually though, I like to get at least half an hour of conversation in before we open the lines. The numbers are 535-5362. That's the call line, 535-5362. And the text line is 825-5433, 825-5433. We are also streaming live on the official Michelle Malcolm Facebook page. So make sure that you like and share the show. If you're watching us on Facebook, make sure you tell a friend that we are on the air. I have a couple of texts. This one says, morning, I had a big smile hearing you this morning. No lie. Morning to Mr. DePuch. I agree we are being held in a state of inertia by what Stuart Mills calls majority tyranny and conformity. Liberty, civil or not, is essential for mental well-being. 52 says you are well liked beyond your knowledge. Hey, 52, welcome to the new GPS. Thank you. He's one of the persons who was one of my regular callers in the other place. Right. Another text says the best commission has truly turned out to be in the worst commission. Your laugh is contagious and enjoyable. Thank you so much. I'm calling this show The State of the State Through the Eyes of a Statesman. The State of the State Through the Eyes of a Statesman. And I really want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this Bahamas that we find ourselves in today? And do you have any concerns about the direction that we're heading in?
Yes, simply because it seems as though, this is not just recently, but it seems as though we have a problem, and the problem is between our ears. Bahamians basically believe that they're second-class citizens, and they're showing it all the time.
Can I just stick a pin in that right there? I think Bahamians have been conditioned to believe that they are second-class, but go ahead with your thoughts.
They've been conditioned to believe that.
Yes, yeah.
It's always better if it's done elsewhere or somebody else does it. I've had that personal experience being far more qualified than people, and they say, well, let's get an American to do it.
Yep.
Said, fine. Now, that is the basic problem that we have. Now, if we sell a country out, which it looks as though we're doing, selling it out or giving it away, in another 10 or 20 years, a Bahamian will be extinct. He will be somebody that just doesn't exist anymore. And this is very slowly or very quickly happening in this country today. With politicians, it gets worse. The politicians today believe that anything goes. They can say anything and you're expected to believe it.
It's all about self-preservation. I just trying to win the election to get back in power.
Exactly. And so I can make some, I understand a lot of them aren't going anymore because they already made the money.
Wow.
But there's so much that, and it really bothers me, although I'm 84, what do you say? And I always tell people I have one foot in the grave and the other on a banana.
You don't look so. You don't look so.
Getting soft. But this country has such potential. It makes me sick to see it being just thrown away. And the way people talk to you, because this man, Mr. Potter, it's a good thing I'm not in charge of immigration because he would have gone long ago. Talking to the Bahamians like they're third-class citizens, is he going to do what he likes? That this should get people upset. It doesn't seem to. Everybody says we're going to strike oil, so what? What are they going to do with it? They have been drilling for oil now for years, and before the Second World War, and they found it. But there's not enough quantity of it to make it economically feasible. So then you say, what's he doing here? What's he up to? And then you start, and I don't know that this is true. I don't know this is true. But you start looking at the shareholdings. And then you understand slowly what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Do you realize that he has, I have it somewhere here, 63 million, I believe, shares options. 66 million options. Do you know that? You know not these options? I didn't know what it was. But you get the option at a penny. I don't know. These are the figures. I'm just throwing them out. I don't know. But the way the options work, it's you have an opportunity to buy an option for a penny. So when that goes to $10 on the open market, because of all the hype and what have you,
Yes.
you can sell them. Now, let's see if that happens. It'd be $660 million.
That ain't no little small chunk of change.
I'm not saying this is what he's doing,
Right.
but certainly I would question him. Now, the other day we have Mr. James Smith, who rather surprises me, but anyway, this is the way it is. He said they started and they can't stop now, and they shouldn't stop now. Well, he owns 1.5 million shares options.
Follow the money.
Okay.
Follow the money.
I mean, this isn't the first time it's happened. I mean, certain shares are given out to certain people, and I'm not saying he's done it,
Right.
but I know from past experience, you're well placed, and they give you shares, and they give you all kinds of options.
And so it's in your best interest to ensure that it goes through.
That's the way it is. I think you go way back to the city markets. They criticize Stafford Sands and what have you, but Stafford's family owned city markets. And he sold it out to the American firm. But up to that time, he said there would be no thing like city markets and all the rest of the supermarkets would not go south of the arch. Because, I mean, it would change now, but way back 50 years ago. Supermarkets would not go south of the arch because that is so the petty ante or papa shops are over there, and that's how these people made money. So he sold out to city markets. He sold his city markets to his foreign company. And then they suddenly well-placed persons had shares, but they were decision makers. And before you knew it, city market was all over the place. And the mama and papa shops died. Okay? So this idea is oftentimes happening. I'll tell you a situation with aviation. One day I was sitting in my office and I was told that some people wanted to see me about registering aircraft. Now, registering aircraft is more lucrative than registering boats. So there were two local people came in. One person I knew extremely well. And then these two English people came in, and they treat you like you're some kind of little boy, because they put in front of you these flashcards. And you look at the flashcards and they read them. They're all in big type. And they just assume you can't read, so they're reading these things to you, so you watch it. I remember they said, they came to one page, he said, well, this is where you come in, Minister. I said, me? And excuse me for saying so, but Dr. McCartney, who just died the other day, he and I were classmates, we were like brothers. And we at school, we used to say, we called it dumb Bahamian look, okay? Play dumb. So asking all kinds of questions. I knew exactly what he was getting at. This is where you come in, Mr. Minister. And I said, what are you talking about? Then I drag him a little bit more. He says, well, you name your lawyer and your accountant, and we'll start negotiating immediately. And I kept asking stupid questions, and they thought, well, I'm talking to this stupid guy, let's give him all the information. It basically, the idea was that I was to name my lawyer and my accountant because I wasn't get a cut of the action. Now, and I said to him finally, I said, look, you go to the telephone directory and you look up attorneys, and you go down the list and you pick whatever attorney you want. You go down the list and you pick accounts and you pick whatever you want. And then you come back to me, but the next time you come back, I'll throw your tail in jail if you try and buy me again. And as they left, one of the people turned to me and said, Minister, we don't have to deal with you. I said, that's okay, but you're not going to buy me.
They were bold.
Simply because they were told
that's the way things work.
Another occasion, a person came, when I was in agriculture, came to me and they discussed, they wanted to buy a hotel or something. And they were from Trinidad, and their son or something was a classmate of my son. So he phoned me, my son called me and said, would you talk to these people? I said, fine, I'll talk to them, but that's not my ministry. I would tell them how to, So he sat there and talked for a long time. He was a very, very nice person. And finally, at the end of the day, he says, how much do I owe you, Minister? I said, I beg your pardon.
Wow.
He says, well, how much do I owe you? I said, who told you you owed me? I was told, he says, that you're supposed to pay the minister.
Jeez. It is said that the Bahamas is perhaps the richest little country in the world. Mm-hmm. But a part of the problem why we are not benefiting from all the wealth of this nation is because of what you just talked about, corruption.
Corruption. Yeah.
I want to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how corruption stifles the development of a nation. Mm-hmm. Because we have a decision to make, people, whether we want to continue to go down the road we've been going down. And if you look around, I dare say, maybe we need to reconsider the direction we've been heading in, because it clearly ain't working for the majority of Bahamians. Do we want to continue that road? And what will it look like if we decide to take another course? So stay with us. This is GPS, Global Paradigm Shift. We'll be back after the break. All your building needs, it's CARIB Construction and Project Management on Gladstone Road. We build it all: schools, homes, hotels, and more, including structures requiring a Phase 3 electrical contractor. We also provide project management services. The first step towards your dream building begins at CARIB Construction and Project Management. Call us at 376-1556 or 341-4466.
Hi, I'm Benita Washington, and whenever I'm in the Bahamas, I'm tuned in to Glory 93.9.
This is Jay Todd.
Photography at its best. Professional and quality service. Warren Grant Photography, specializing in weddings, portraits, sunset images, events, and photo booth, creating compelling images of life-changing events. Make that step today and call 242-424-5678 or email Warren_Grant251@yahoo.com or check out our website at www.warrengrantphotography.com. Facebook and Instagram, Warren Grant Photography. We change moments into memories.
At Lee Air, safety is our #1 priority. Flying since 1996, we offer scheduled flights into Fresh Creek and Mangrove Key Andros and Great Harbor Key, Berry Island, twice daily, 7 days a week. Affordable charter services are also available to anywhere in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Lee Air Charter Services. Call 225-3267, 702-7127, or 322-1317 for reservations. GPS, Global Paradigm Shift. I am your host, Michelle Malcolm, and it's truly a pleasure to be in your company today. My guest on this inaugural show is former Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries and Aviation and former veteran parliamentarian serving over 25 years in the House of Assembly. Pierre DePuch is my very first guest on this new show. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
And to all of you just tuning in, we're calling this show The State of the State Through the Eyes of a Statesman. And prior to the break, we were talking about the fact that the Bahamas is known to be one of the richest countries in the entire world. And yet, if you drive through our streets today, you would question that, because the majority of Bahamians, particularly since the COVID-19 pandemic and the decisions that have been made in reaction to that pandemic, the majority of Bahamians are struggling just to keep their heads above water, not advancing or doing well. They're struggling just to survive. That's how bad it is out there. And as I listen to the leaders and their lofty speeches that they make and the pronouncements that they make, I sit back and I wonder, are these people living in La La Land? Do they not know what is happening out there to the majority of their citizens? Or do they just not care? Because I question this, because if you look at what has happened in our country in the past several months, since COVID especially, what COVID has done is it has ripped the veil. For a long time, we've been playing pretend that everything was well, that, the Bahamas was in a great place, and ignoring the harsh realities that many of our people face. And COVID just ripped that veil wide open for everybody to see the ugly reality of our shortcomings in this country. So as we look at where we are now, what are your concerns as it relates to the future of this Bahamas? Because, election coming up soon.
Well, we have to change our entire attitude. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with America.
Mm-hmm.
But in America, when I was in Minnesota, that's farmland. If you want to go to your neighbor's place, you get in your car and 5 minutes later, you get to your neighbor. That's how big these things are. So we only have small potholes here. So they say, here, we can't do it in the Bahamas. We can't feed ourselves. We can't do this. We can't do that. Because we continuously look at this mass production thing, rather than looking at, let's say, a Taiwan model. Now, you take, for example, and I said this in the House of Assembly many times, I think that there's something like 12 million dozen T-shirts sold in the Bahamas to tourists.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all brought in from China. Now, or Taiwan. So Taiwan doesn't have sheep and cloth and stuff, so they have to import it.
Mm-hmm.
So we can import it here. It happens to be very, very labor intensive. I don't think you have enough people here to give them jobs, sewing and stuff.
Right.
No. We are the closest other than Mexico and Canada to the largest economy in the world, largest market in the world. 12 million dozen T-shirts has to keep a factory going at least 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
So why not import the cloth, produce the T-shirts here, and sell them to sell them to the tourists who come in? 12 million dozen. You realize what the employment would be? No. They say, oh, they've tried that. Well, Chippy tried it.
Mm-hmm.
But they went to Chippy and said, you produce the shirts. If we like them, we'll buy them.
So if you don't like them, I'm stuck with these shirts.
And you got to give me 30 days. I said, what happens? You got to pay for an advance. You got to put 50% down, and 50% is irrevocable letter of credit for the other 50%. I said, well, it's obvious. You buy from China.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They called me the banana minister, if you remember it. You had a situation here where they'd buy the bananas in Miami or Florida, who would bring them in from all over the place and sell them here. Now I said to the people, look, you're now getting 35 cents a piece or a pound for these things. We aren't going to drop the figures, but we're going to allow you to get into the market. Since the market won't bring you because we got a psychological problem, the market won't accept you, I'm going to force the market to accept you. And so I'm going to put a ban on them. I had put a ban on them. I was going to put a ban on them to buy as many as you could here and then get the rest, but they wouldn't. They didn't honor that. They promised they would, but they didn't. So I put a complete ban on it. The farmer came to me, so boy, we could push our prices up. I said, no. You drop your prices. Well, next year they said, no. I said, no. Next year you will have a larger part of the market, if not the entire market, which means your production costs will go down. And I said, I want you to hand that on to the people. They said, okay. So for 1 year went, and the production of the quality of bananas tripled. The production of bananas more than quadrupled. And we had the finest looking bananas in the world. Okay? And we were slowly getting into the market, and people were slowly accepting it. But we had problems. We had, for example, we were waiting for 200 cases to come in, I think, from Long Island. And the mail boat broke down, and it was a steel-hulled mail boat, so we got fried bananas. But anyway.
Wow.
The minute I left, they pulled her out from under. And I feel badly about it because what did these poor farmers do with the bananas? It wasn't a matter of quality. It wasn't a matter of price. It was a matter of something between the ears. It's easier to pick up your phone, buy a trailer load from Florida. Mm-hmm. We have to understand that we have to do things to get people into markets. The end run for anybody should be the people. Now, if it doesn't help the people, it shouldn't be done. If it's hurt the people in the long run.
Could you say that again for me, please, sir? I think certain people need to hear that. They should know it already, but clearly they don't.
If it's for the people, it's okay. If it hurts the people in the long run, don't have it. And that's the same thing. Mining in Andros, for example, dig up all the land. A few people make a lot of money on it, but generations, my great-grandchildren, won't have anywhere to grow anything because it'll be destroyed.
Well, I'm going to be doing a show specifically on that project in the near future.
Well, there's so much, and I kind of get emotional about it because, I love this place, and that sounds stupid, but that's the way it is. I went to Inagua years ago with Tennyson before I was taking over, as just the day before I was sworn in as agriculture. Mm-hmm. And somebody said to me, would you like to see the flamingos? I said, yes. And we went out early in the morning. And you could hear this fluttering because a flamingo has to run on water before it can take off. They just can't lift. You look out and they took off. They circled and darkened the sky. There were 40,000 flamingos up there. Now, I went back some time later with my son, and every year we go to a different island. My son, his wife, his children, and I, and my wife. We went back there, and I had hell to find a flamingo. Found plenty of shells. Beautiful beaches. The donkeys down there have a history behind them. Mm-hmm. I think we saw 2 donkeys, but we saw plenty of skulls in the ocean, in the water. Nothing basically is being done down there. Nothing. Now, we have, in those days, at least 2 million bird watchers in the world registered. So what do? You take and you build a community. Nothing fancy, no big hotel, 5-story hotel. Mm-hmm. People like that don't like this big stuff. Yeah. So you do these small things.
Mm-hmm. Little boutique hotels.
Yeah. With a central place that they have their food and they eat and whatever. Then you have tours going out to these things. Do you know how? And then you deal with Bahamas Air, and Bahamas Air says we'll carry 2 flights a week, and they're guaranteed. You then go to the Ministry of Tourism, and the Ministry of Tourism pushes this abroad, but this is the money we pay them anyhow to do, pushes it abroad, promotes that. Do you realize how many tourists Anagua would have, even with this COVID-19? Because that's wide open spaces. You're in the air all the time. You go to Andros. You go to the southern set of Andros. Am I talking too much?
No. This is a talk show, by the way.
You go to Andros. When I was Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, they came to me. They said the people from Andros wanted to see me, so I finally saw them. And in the door walked fellas down in suits, and you'd think they were educated at Harvard. And I finally said to them, I was so shocked. I said to them, "Where did you guys learn this?" They said, "We deal with some of the richest people and most successful people in the world." People were so impressed one time, and the people in Andros was fly fishing, that they had a car made, a truck or SUV, I suppose they call it now, made specifically for them and gave it to them as a bonus. So Thank you. Okay. That there, fly fishing, not only in Andros, but it's all over the Acklands and all that. But let's say Andros for now. That promoted is a multi-billion dollar business. But what happens to it? The minute I mentioned in House of Assembly, one of my colleagues brought somebody in, fronted for him.
Let me ask you this. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Okay.
No, go ahead. Finish your point.
No, I'm finished.
Okay, so here's the question. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again. I do not believe that it is a matter of them not knowing what needs to be done. Because they are intelligent people. And if you could figure it out, and I could figure it out, and everybody else said they could figure it out, they know what needs to be done.
Greed.
Hello, somebody.
Greed.
Talk to me.
You take this recent fisheries thing. You know what that is? When I was in cabinet, we had a problem with the marrying game. Girl would come over here, marry a fella, pay him a couple $1,000, don't even live with him, and they were back and forth. Okay, and this was stopped by saying, and I was in cabinet at the time. This was stopped by saying, fine, you can marry an outsider, but you have to cohabitate for 5 years. And cohabitate, if you've cohabitated for 5 years, then we'll give her a permit. Okay. This here is the same down with these some of these guys, some are politicians, own boats, and they got demand them. The cheapest labor is Dominicans. They don't know, they don't do this deliberately, but some of the captains of those boats, they say Dominicans dive better than the Bahamians. That's not true. They're forced to dive deeper than a Bahamian will. And many of them come up with the bends and they don't make it. And they're left there as shark bait. Now that's fact.
My God.
Okay? That is what is happening in the country today. I am shocked and surprised that anybody is trying to say that the Bahamians can't do that. I know Spanish Wells, and I know the people there personally. Spanish Wells, when I was in fisheries, I could call his name, Robert Roberts, volunteered to go to Andros and teach those people how to drop pots and what have you, and how to fish. Because those fellas up there, by the time they're 21, they've got a 3-bedroom house. And they work so hard. And they look more comfortable swimming than walking. So we have, again, just greedy people who shouldn't be in the business wanting to get into it because there's money in it. Money seems to be the god of people.
It is.
And that is basically, as far
It
as I
is.
am concerned, the big problem with this situation they're talking about. Bahamian is it's not freedom. You bring in an outsider, you have to get immigration permission. Sometimes they don't give them because they say there are enough people to fill the jobs. So why are they getting all upset and uptight about this law? Because they want something.
Wow. Okay, so
I'm sorry for being so blunt, but that's the way.
why you think I asked you to come here?
I was born that way.
Ain't nobody expect you to come sugarcoat nothing. This real talk now. My slogan is the truth has a new home. Ain't nobody holding me back for nothing. Let's go. Let's get it done. All right. So here's the thing, though. We have heard before governments in the past say, oh, we are coming with this national development plan. And I don't know, maybe I'm just naive, but I am thinking that the way a national development plan is supposed to work is that all of the stakeholders come to the table. You engage as many people across the board as you can to get as many ideas as you can. You put together a comprehensive national development plan that serves as a roadmap, as a GPS. And no matter which government sits in the seat at that particular time, that is your map. So you follow the plan, and then we as the electorate decide which one of y'all we want to put in there based on your ability to execute that plan. Am I naive, or is that how it's supposed to work?
That's the way it's supposed to work, but it doesn't work that way.
So how is it that you could come in after me and you could throw out the national development plan because you figured
Most of this, it was based, I hate to say it, most of this was based on race.
Explain that, please.
Vote for me because I's white, or vote for me because I's black. So you put a PLP tag or an FNM tag around a dead dog, and FNM's to vote for him. And it's wrong. You have to at some point in time vote for people because they got brain power.
Brain power and credibility and
Ethics.
character.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. I fear that we have come to a place in this country, and I'm being told to read some of the text. I'm also getting some text from some persons saying that they can't get on the station on the radio. So you guys want to look into that, please. So I'm getting, let me read a couple of texts. One says, great show, expected nothing less from a talented lady. I don't always agree with your guests, but ... best in 2021 and beyond. Thank you so much. Another one says, listening in. Thank you so much for tuning in. Veronica Ward, Alton E. Gardner, welcome back, GPS. Well, welcome, GPS, because it's a new show, but thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Again, the call, the station is on 93.9 on your dial, and you can also tune in via Facebook. We are streaming live to Facebook, so you can definitely catch us there and make sure that you like and share the show. Now, here is one of the things that I'm concerned about. Oh, let me throw out the telephone lines again. The lines are, where did it go? Give me a second while I'm going to ask the question while I look for that. Here's one of the things that I'm concerned about, Mr. DePucci. Here it is. Call line 535-5362, 535-5362. Text 825-5433, 825-5433. You touched on something a moment ago. And that's when we get fatigued with a particular party or leader. And Toby the dog could run for the next party, and we can vote for them because we tied. So what we have been doing in this country is, as opposed to voting for governments, we've been voting against governments. We've been, I tied a Christie so I can vote FNM.
That's right.
I tied a minute so I can vote something else.
That's right.
But you cannot progress as a nation if you continue to do that, because the lesser of two evils is still evil.
Well, this is the problem, and I'm not trying to cast aspersions on anyone. I must tell you flat-footed that I support Brave Davis. And I think that he would be fair. He's a different. I'm a member of no party now, but he was a PLP with us in FNM. I always found brave to be fair, be straightforward, and no matter who you were or what you were, he would deal with you. Now, as far as I am concerned, I don't expect him to agree with everything I say, and I assume he doesn't he doesn't expect me to agree with everything he says.
Mm-hmm.
But that there has to be a basis that I can walk into you and say, look, Michelle, this is the way it is, or this is the way I think. And you will say, well, I suppose I was spoiled because Cecil and I for years were arch enemies. And that's another story.
Mm-hmm.
Because people around here love to come and start rumors about somebody that you don't know, so that you never talk to them. That's what Cecil was everything but a child of God, as far as a lot of people were concerned. And I must say that Sir Lyndon Pendling was the best thing he ever said, was that he described Cecil as a man who head of fire and heart of gold.
Mm.
That's the way he was. But you have to, people like him were always interested in the good of the people. This is what I found.
Mm.
And he would go, if he would be working a $1 million deal in his law firm and somebody has a problem, and he would drop that and go and take care of the problem. And this is the kind of person I find brave to be. And this is the kind of person you should have, as far as I'm concerned, running a country, who they mightn't agree with you, but they will always talk to you. Cecil and I used to argue like crazy, but you reported to the House of Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
You always found us on the same side. That's because we probably spent the entire night and saw sun come up, arguing over that matter and coming up with a third position. This is what I know to be democracy. A lot of other people say, man, if you don't like it, I don't want to do anything to do with you, and that kind of stuff. Well, that's the way it is. And again, it backs up to the people. If you don't have political parties and you have to vote for people, they will learn. You see, people don't understand that politicians rely on their votes. And if I'm relying on your votes, I'm going to listen to you because I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Mm.
Okay? I may disagree with you, but it's my job to tell you why I'm right and you're wrong.
I just think that the modern day politician has become an expert at swinging people, man. They can say whatever it takes and do whatever it takes at the moment to get your vote. And then they get in parliament and all of a sudden they have convenient amnesia and they remember none of them things what they promise you. That was, shoot, Carl Bethel actually said it. Well, a lot of things are said on the campaign trail. Like, really?
And they believe that.
So we as a people need to wise up and stop getting swing. Because here's the thing. And I'm going to come to some of y'all messages now on Facebook, y'all. Y'all got to bear with me, okay? I'm just new to this StreamYard thing, so bear with me while I go through the learning curve. But here's the thing. We have to understand that there's a song that says, this land is your land, this land is my land. We all know that song, right? But here's the thing. If this country fails, people say we're all in the same boat. We're not all in the same boat. We're all in the same water. Some people in a luxury yacht. Some people in a dinghy. Some people on the life raft. Some people drowning. We're not all in the same boat. If this country sinks, if this country goes down, some people have options. They got enough money that they could pack up and they could go move to Switzerland or wherever they choose to go live to. So they have options. But the vast majority of Bahamians do not. This is it. So if we don't make this work, all of us will suffer as a result. And I think until we get to the point where we as a people understand that and stop putting your party politics over your future and your children's future, it can't only be as big as what you get and how you get in grease in your pocket. Because my God, if you can sell out a whole country just because you got a couple dollars, you getting your little something, what's gonna happen when that young man who feels disenfranchised decides he can come take what you have?
That's what happens.
That's what's going on now.
What you don't understand, because it was before I was born, but I always used to hear my father say that Haiti was one of the richest countries in this area. Now look at it now. We are going to be exactly, if we don't watch out, we're going to be exactly the same way. We're going to have people leaving and not coming back. I am a typical example. 5 children, 1 came home.
The others are building somebody else's. And that is a story that we're hearing over and over again. Young people ain't coming back here.
You have, I think, I may be talking out of turn, but I believe Brave Davis has a daughter who's a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Where is she?
Atlanta, eh?
I believe that Bulgy Allen has a daughter. Where is she? I could sit here and name up. They're fantastic. They're heads of departments and all sorts of stuff.
I have family members who chose to stay in the United States and are doing extremely well, making serious, and are respected and appreciated for the talent that they bring to the table.
That's right.
Unlike when you come back here, you can get frustrated to the point where you can say, to hell with this and go back to where you came from.
The minute a Bahamian comes home, he becomes a third-class citizen. That's the way it is. I have had that personally happen to me. And I think that anybody who's qualified comes back here, the minute he comes back, he's a third-class citizen. Now, let me ask you this. I'll put up a proposition here. Somebody has a serious brain operation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So you don't play with anybody. And you're laying there, and I say, well, look, there are 3 doctors. They're all qualified, but I'm going to let you make the decisions of which one is going to cut your head open.
Mm-hmm.
One is a black man, one is a white man, one is an Indian. You got 4 or 5 of them. One's a Chinese. What is the first question you're going to ask them? Now you're making the decision as to who's going to do the operation.
Mm-hmm.
What is your first question you ask them?
No, go ahead.
I'm asking you.
No, I can let you say it.
Are you qualified?
Yes, of course.
What are your qualifications?
Mm-hmm.
Huh? Why don't we do the same thing with politicians? They're running our country.
Our whole country.
Yeah. Why don't we ever sit down and say, are you qualified? What are your qualifications? How do you see this country going? And I'll tell you one thing, over 50% of them couldn't tell you.
One of the things that I really wish to see in this country, and I remember when I used to work at ZNS, tried to do it and was shut down. We need real national debates where you come in as an aspirant for prime minister for your party, and the next one comes in, and the third party comes in, and you all come and we the journalists and a town hall meeting, if you want to do it that way, put questions to you about the policies that you say you want to promote as prime minister or as the member of parliament for any particular constituency. But it won't happen because we allow them to get away with not doing it. And as long as we are happy just going to the rallies and waving the pom-pom, rah, 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 and who got the biggest party and the most musical guests on stage, and this a big party, people, we need to get serious. We need to get serious.
People come in here and they see us as the way we really are. And they give this one and give that one and give the other one, make themselves look pretty. And we just sit there and let them rape us. And
then tell them thanks afterwards.
And say thank you for it. This is what happens. And I'm not anti-foreign, so don't get me wrong.
No.
But if you have the qualifications here, I don't know why you don't use them. If you have Inago was just an example. Andrus was just an example.
Mm-hmm.
You take crawfishing. You have all kinds of fishing in this country. There's billions of dollars to be made. You don't have to make it all in tourism. And they say, well, they have to build the foreign money coming in, build it up. What nobody's ever thought is, what happens if we reduce the number of imports? And that is the money going out.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were in the house when I said that you realize that if you're a tourist coming into this country, every time you spend $1, that's considered a capital export, right?
Mhm.
But if you come in the evening, before the next morning, the sun comes up the next morning, we have already sent away 80 cents of that dollar to buy food
My
to feed you.
My God. That is
Okay,
so ridiculous.
Now, if you bring the dollar in, it's harder to get more people to come in
Mhm.
than it is to reduce the amount of money you have going out.
Mhm.
So we start feeding ourselves. You go to Trinidad and you go in a hotel there and they put fruit baskets in there. You know exactly what's growing out there because
Yeah.
that's all Trinidadian fruit.
My Lord. Let me read a couple of these messages and then we're going to take a break. This one says, good morning, Michelle Malcolm from Africa. Okiru Booker Tim. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for tuning in all the way from Africa. I love it. Another one, Kevin Hennessy. The PM them into greed and wickedness. They not into the people them cry. Another one, Lady D. Archer. You can't keep this smart, good, strong Bahamian woman down. You best believe that, Lady D. All right? Like I say, thank you to all who had a hand because it was meant to be. Merlene Evans. Hello, Michelle. It's so good to see you. This is awesome. Thank you, Merlene, so much for tuning in. No weapons formed against you shall prosper. Amen and amen. Whitlin Miller, referring to what we said earlier about whether or not they know what to do, but why are they doing it? Says they know, but they are only listening. But they're only interested in things that will benefit them. And that's the problem. I agree. Talonis Sands. Talonis, long time no see. Glad you're back, Michelle. Always appreciate you. Thank you, Talonis, for tuning in. You have a fan. This Barbara Smith says, we need this man for prime minister. You interested in the job? He laughing, Barbara. He need to answer that question. Are you interested in the job? All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to continue with a GPS, Global Paradigm Shift. Michelle Malcolm in your company. It's a pleasure to be here, y'all. Stay with us. Looking for an extraordinary junior high school with caring, qualified staff and affordable tuition? Then come visit us at Elite School of Excellence, an affiliate of First Step Academy. ABECA-focused and Ministry of Education approved, we foster discipline, integrity, and wisdom while molding our students for success. Call us at 341-8846 or stop by First Step Academy Schools on Fire Trail and Soldy Roads for more information. At Brotherhood Security, your safety is our concern. Providing 24-hour surveillance, mobile patrol, event security, and more, Brotherhood Security gives you 5-star service for half the price. Feel free to WhatsApp or call us at 813-6730 or 431-9064. Brotherhood Security, giving you the best for less. Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm, and my first guest on my first show in this new beginning is the one and only Pierre Depuch. Mr. Depuch, it's always such a pleasure to be in your company, man. I'm so honored that you agreed to kick this thing off with me. Thank you so much for agreeing to be here.
It's my honor. Not.
So we recently heard the Prime Minister say that they're now going to start to accelerate what do you call it? This sovereign wealth fund. This sovereign wealth fund, what we've been talking about for years, they all of a sudden accelerated. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know much about it, but all I say is this talk is cheap.
And money by land.
Elections are coming soon, and you can hear all sorts of promises, and they can do this, and they can do that, and they can do the other thing. I sit back and say, well, do it. You don't need all sorts of fancy things around. You just get the job done. If they get some of the basics done, then they can talk about a wealth plan. I mean, they talk. I don't think you mentioned it, this thing about declaring who gives money to your campaign. There's a bunch of foolishness. All it is, it sounds good, but what it is I want to find out who gave you money, so that I could either get money for you, or I can tell you, if you don't give me some, I'm the government. I'll see that you don't get any licenses.
What is this today?
It's going to be it's a situation of blackmail, as far as I am concerned.
I only want to know who gave you money so I can go ahead them up for some.
Exactly.
Lord have mercy.
Or I can do, if somebody's being nice to me, and he's if I'm a PLP, and people give me money, then I go to you, who are an F&M, and ask you to give me a license. You say no.
Are we really that corrupt?
Sure we are.
My God.
It happens every day. Oh. We have a situation here. It's a simple situation. People don't like to talk about it. Because I don't like to talk about it, because one of my family's involved in some of it. My brother.
Mm-hmm.
You have what's his name? Miller, and you have a number of people.
Mm-hmm.
You have this the post office situation.
Mm-hmm.
Carl Bethel looks him cold in the face and says, "You got a contract, but we are paying. And if you don't like it, we'll put you in court. You can sue us, and we'll see that you don't get into court for 5-6 years." So they don't pay Bahamian debt, which they legitimately own,
Mm-hmm.
and it is all signed. Everything is straight. But they turn around and say they got to give Mr. Potter permission to mine in our country. You got to pay the cruise ships. You got to pay those people. They foreign. They got to be paid. Now the Bahamian, we don't have to pay them. Do you realize that this government owes over $200 million to Bahamians?
My God.
And nobody's saying anything about it, because the attitude around here says, well, it ain't me.
They could wait. If
It
they
ain't
ever get
me.
it. Yeah.
They making too much money anyhow.
Ain't that something?
Mm,
People begrudging you for what you work for.
that's right. And this is what happens. Now, when you see a government like that, you can write them off.
My God.
They just talk in foolishness to get your head spun,
Mm-hmm.
and you vote for them. And in the next 5 years, you won't. What about the Freedom of Information Act?
Yeah, well.
How many times have you heard that's coming up?
You have you seen that that cartoon? There's a skeleton sitting on a bench, and the title says, "This person was waiting for Mr. Right or waiting for Mrs. Right." Well, that's us waiting for that Freedom of Information Act. We'll be skeletons before we see anything come
You'll
of
never
that,
see it.
because we allow them to get away with not
Now, you
bringing
see,
it forward.
The thing is, if I would be impressed with this, if they said they were making a law that make it against the law for fronting, for this pyramid thing,
Mhm.
making deals that's signed, and it's lawyer-client relationship, so nobody knows about it, like they would have happened with me with registering aircraft.
Mhm.
If they make a law and say that any lawyer or accountant or anything else forming a company that even hints at that, they will go to jail, then it'll stop. But these guys know that, and they don't want it to happen.
Of course not, because if they did want it to happen, it would have happened a long time ago.
Sure. You see, so they talk about this sounds very good, very good. Going to have a commission, special commission. If you make who's going to appoint the commission?
Anyhow, I still waiting on some results from some investigations what were promised, but I holding my breath, because I don't want to be that skeleton on
Yeah.
Let me read a couple of texts and Facebook messages. This one says, welcome, Miss Malcolm, a new breath of fresh air, exclusively the whole truth and nothing else but the truth. You best believe it. My slogan for this show is the truth has a new home. I hold back nothing. And I am grateful for this opportunity to all of the owners of the station. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to speak truth. And, I know that could make you an unpopular person because people don't like the truth, especially when it doesn't shine well on them. But it is what it is. In this day and age, we cannot afford to not call a spade because we all will go down in flames if this thing fails. And until we get to the point where we put country over politics, we need to shut up about the ills of this country. Until you decide that you are going to put your country over your politics, shut up. Mm-hmm. I want to hear nothing what you got to say because you are part of the problem. All right, let's read a couple of these messages. Sandra Coakley Ramokhan, my high school mate. Hey, girl, living all the way in Michigan, says, hey, Michelle, tuning in from Michigan. Good to have you back. Great to have you here, Sandy. Always beautiful. Peter Skinner says, this is how you do it, Michelle. God bless. Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Christy Stiles says, it is what it is. That's right. Country over politics. Man, Christy, we need to do better, man. We need to do better because until we do, what you making noise for, beating up your gum if you ain't willing to do what is right for this country and demand that the people that we put there do the same. I am sick and tired of these politicians thinking that they could just get away with coming up to the podium, saying any kind of thing, and we just got to take it. And nowadays, we see where they're trying to stifle the media to the point where they're talking about you're only allowed to ask 2 questions in a press conference. Really, people? And we sitting back and allowing this foolishness to happen? Let me explain to you why this is so dangerous. And you and I were talking about this before the show started. One of the reasons why Donald Trump was not my favorite person in the world is because he was hell-bent on trying to discredit the media. Why? Because he realized that if he could convince his base that what the media was saying was not true, then he could pretty much say and do anything because his base was going to follow him. And so when you see any leader tries to discredit the media or tries to stifle the media or sits back and allows that to happen in the country, you better watch yourself. Because I remember this fellow named Hitler. All you got to do is follow, just go read, study what he did to get the power. And one of the first things he did was he discredited the media. So now no matter what they said against him, the masses aren't going to believe it because Hitler say that's, they didn't call it then, but in essence what Trump did, that's fake news. So you discredit the media. Then you find a common enemy to blame. In the case of Hitler, it was the Jews. Okay, we're not going to take any responsibility for the problems we find ourselves in. No, it ain't our fault.
What was the excuse here?
Pardon me?
What was the excuse here?
What was the excuse?
Here.
Well, some of us, we blaming the Haitians for all of our problems. It depends on which grouping you're in, I guess. Mm-hmm. But we definitely don't want to look in the mirror and see what we are doing to contribute to the problems we're having. Oh, no, that's somebody else who caused that problem. That's somebody else. If it ain't the Haitians, it's the political party you oppose. Mm-hmm. We almost getting ready to go into another election, and this many members of this government still talking about, well, the PLP did this and the PLP did that. Mm-hmm. Really? You still talking about what the PLP did, and you about to go into another election? Y'all better get serious.
How many millions were borrowed to pay PLP debts? The 200 million, I remember the first one was 200 million to pay off PLP debts. Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. That pays off the debts of the former government. Mm-hmm. Now, about 6 months later, was another 200 million to pay off PLP debts. Does that make sense to you?
Nope.
Yeah, people swallow it. This business of this recent business, the oil business, PLP. It's not PLP. As I said to somebody the other night, I was on the Naughty Show. I said, my friend, if you are driving the car and the other guy sitting in the back, but he was driving the car. If you didn't like how he was driving the car, but the fellow who's driving now is running into a tree, who you can blame? The guy who was there before?
Mm-hmm.
Because you drive, or you who's driving the car.
Mm-hmm.
These people are driving the car.
Mm-hmm.
The PLP is not driving the car. The PLP with the oil, for example, they ran out. It ran out of time. People didn't pay, so there was no contract.
And if you were so dead set against it, why you renewed it?
Yeah, but if you driving the car, they aren't driving the car. What you
Mhm.
blaming them for?
Well, you know what? I have heard that one of the reasons why Menace is really hoping that this oil deal will come through is because there's some possibility that he needs that money to come through so that he can have the money for this next election. That's what I've been hearing
I
on the
think the
street.
whole scheme is to tell people it's there. Yeah, get people's money. Well, if they get money to use it to win an election,
My God.
but to convince people that they know what they're doing and this is destroy the country to blow. You see, they talk about Hitler. Poland, I understand. There was a lot of unemployment. They were really down and out. And Hitler said that he would straighten it out. So he went in there and he gave people jobs and everything. Everything started to look rosy.
Mhm.
So when they wanted to annex them to Germany,
Mhm.
everybody said, yeah, do it. So he got it done. And then he took all the jobs away. And he sent them to concentration camps. And this is exactly what is happening here.
All right. Y'all bear with me because there's a lot going on, y'all. I got to get used to. I got to get used to the Facebook comments and the texts and my personal phone ringing up, blowing up. Okay, so somebody sent me a message on my personal phone. It says, where did it go? Damian Turner says, keep their feet to the fire from another fireplace. By the way, it's heading. They will be what? By the way, it's heading. They will be pulling back a knock. Bahamians are woke and are staying woke. Thanks for shaking us. Be encouraged. I am encouraged. I want you to know I serve a real, true, awesome God. He don't sleep and he don't slumber. And I just want to say this while I remember, because I know that a lot of people are going through a lot of difficult times, a difficult time. I know that. I get it, people. I know a lot of people are hurting. But I want you to know without a shadow of a doubt that if you do not lose faith, tough times cannot last. Tough people do. You will get through it. A lot of people give up and the breakthrough was right there.
Mm-hmm.
But because they couldn't see it, they threw in the towel and said, I'm gone, I'm done. But if you just a couple steps more, you would have hit that breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to encourage everybody listening to this show today, because I know people hurting. I know people are going through some difficult times, but know that these tough times cannot last. You have to outlast the tough times.
Mm-hmm.
And, some are saying that it's going to get worse before it gets better.
I think they will, yeah.
That's a frightening thought.
Well, you see, it has to get worse here, because I don't believe, for example, that they have this tremendous outbreak in the United States and we have nothing here. I don't believe it.
Mm.
I don't believe that we're being told what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
You see, but that's the way it is. You wouldn't want to talk about majority rule day, hey?
Why not? Let's do it.
But let me ask you this. They have this majority rule in the Bahamas, which November 26th, 1960, when women got the vote.
Mm.
Okay, it should be Women's Day.
Mm.
But 67, how is that majority rule day? You can tell me.
That is the day that the tide was turned in Parliament, and what is his name? Folks, I think, decided to go along with the Progressive Liberal Party to form the new government, and this was what began the process towards the majority of Bahamians
Not the majority behavior.
Well, let me put it this way, because we say we have majority rule, but we don't have majority rule as far as our economy is concerned. We have majority rule as far as politics is concerned.
If you go that route, why did Obama become president of the United States?
Explain.
I don't know. Because what people are saying doesn't make sense. Because the majority of he became president. Now let me put it to you this way: if you're sitting around a table, a conference room, 10 people, 51 people vote. That's the majority, right? Okay. If you have a room full of 1,000 people, and somebody nominates Michelle Malcolm, somebody nominates next one, the Chinaman or whatever, whole bang is. And the majority of people, the people who are in the room, 51% of them vote for the Chinaman. Is that not majority rule? Okay. What do we have as a majority gender in the country?
Oh Lord, you opening a serious can of worms.
No. Okay. What's the majority? What's the majority of
females?
Females, yeah. And what's the majority color?
Darker hue. Black people, yes.
Okay. And the religion?
Christian.
Baptist or Catholic?
Oh dear. Is it Baptist?
I think so. Okay, no. So we go by this logic that has formed majority rule in the country. Does that tell me that for the majority to rule in that respect, Black Bahamian Baptist women?
I get your point.
Majority rule in this country was in 62 it was. I ran that election. That's when women got the vote. Now, until we recognize these things, we're going to have to always divide in there on color. And color will always get you in trouble. Always. And that is where a root problem is. As some people don't feel as though they belong to the Bahamas because they can never become a member of the House of Assembly because they're in the right color. So how do you call it? How do we have unity? So as long as that is used as a basis, you're going to have problems on your hands. Because you have people walking in there saying, vote for me because I was this or I was that or I was the next thing. When the old UBP did, they say, vote for me because I was white.
Wow.
See what that got you. Now they vote for me because I was black. Why don't they start voting for people because they qualify?
That would be good.
And that comes to the point that I talked about the doctors. The first question you would ask in a situation like that to those doctors, what are your qualifications?
I'm worrying about what colors they were.
No, if he was a Chinaman, he had the best qualifications, you would pick him.
Very quickly, yes.
Why don't you do that to run the country?
Oh boy, Mr. Buch, if only. Let me read a couple of these messages. Adrian Mott.
I knew I'd be unpopular with that one.
Well, it's the truth though. Adrian Mott on Facebook says, seeing you from Switzerland. You got people tuning all the way from Switzerland. Hi, Adrian. Welcome to the show. Devon Simonet, majority don't rule. Oh boy. Judy A. Lundy Miller. Hi, Michelle, listening. And yes, whatever God calls for, he provides for. Keep on doing what you are doing so well. Thank you so much. Carissa Forbes. Turks and Caicos Islands in the house. Hey, Carissa. My dad is from Turks and Caicos Islands, by the way. So the Malcolms run things down there. Now, y'all don't blame them because I say that, okay? That was me. All right? Shani Love says, yes. Saunders Melanie, qualified. Amen. Yes, man. We really got to get to that place, y'all. I have a text that says, great show, Michelle. Congratulations and welcome back. You are the best and glad the truth has found a new home. Thank you so much. Another text that says, welcome, Miss Malcolm, a new breath of fresh air, exclusively the whole truth and nothing else but the truth. So help me God. Amen. I put the last piece on there, by the way. Listen, we're talking to the honorable Pierre DePuch, and the name of this show, we're calling it The State of the State Through the Eyes of a Statesman. We're talking about the Bahamas as it is today. As Bahamas, I quite frankly, in many days I wake up and I wonder, where am I? I can't recognize this country. And this is a serious problem that we have, and we have to come together as a people, stop allowing politics, especially, to divide us, and really put our heads together, get our best minds involved, and do what needs to be done to take this country forward. We really have to do that, because the future of this nation depends on it. And I want to talk, we're going to take a quick break. We do have one more break, right? Yes, I'm going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about the future of the Bahamas. And what do you, Mr. DePuch, see? What would you like to see as it relates to the future of this country? So stay with us. This is GPS, Global Paradigm Shift.
Got a little voice wrong.
Escape from the city life to Bacon Air Beach Resort in Pirateswell, Mayaguana. Relax in one of 16 air-conditioned rooms just steps away from the ocean. Enjoy scrumptious dishes in our waterfront dining room. Sip on a tropical cocktail, or if you must, stay connected with wireless internet. Nestled on one of the most beautiful beaches in the Bahamas, Bacon Air Beach Resort offers a unique vacation experience. For reservations, call 339-3726 or 463-0182. Want to look your best and feel even better? Visit J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa for the ultimate beauty, body, and anti-aging treatments, offering custom colors, haircuts, vegan anti-freeze treatments, silk blowouts, natural and acrylic nails, unisex pedicures, facials and massages, all waxing services, and microcurrent therapies for anti-aging and body sculpting. J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madeira Street, telephone 326-7863. Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift. I'm host Michelle Malcolm. My guest is the Honorable Pierre DePuch, and today we're talking the state of the state through the eyes of a statesman. And I thought it would be fitting to have him as my first guest because, as you all are aware, he was very vocal about the incidents that led to me being here today. And I just wanted to bring him on because I have the highest regard for him and his knowledge about this nation, and wanted to get his opinion on where he thought we should go. Now, we have somebody who is not agreeing with what is being said here today. Emerson Stanton Roll on Facebook. Mr. DePuch is talking rubbish. Majority rule simply means that the majority of people in Parliament belongs to the race of the majority of people in the country. Prior to 67, we had a minority government in the Bahamas. 67 was a turning point. The term applies to the outcome of the 67 election only. It was a turning point. Pierre cannot change the meaning of majority rule if he tries until Christ returns. How do you respond to that, Mr. DePuch?
I expect that most people, many people believe that. But just look at the facts. Do they, if what he says is correct, then I say Obama, who was a good president, should not have been there. It's as simple as that. The chances are that the majority of the people in the House of Assembly will in fact be dark because they're 80% of the population. But I say that they shouldn't be there because they're dark. The chances are that they would be, because if everything being equal, they would, you got a room of about 80-20, and you probably would pick qualified people, and most of them probably would be dark. But it's not because they're dark. That's what I'm saying.
I get it. Okay, I have someone says, please ask Mr. DePuche's thoughts on the natural resources conversation. That has been posted by Junior Mernard on Facebook. Wants to know your thoughts on the natural resources conversation.
Natural resources of the Bahamas should basically be for Bahamians.
All Bahamians.
Sensibly, yes. There's certain things. I mean, there's certain things that you can't do now, but it should eventually become a Bahamian thing. Sure, this is the Bahamas. In America, I don't know why should I control America. That's for Americans. The Bahamas is for Bahamians, but not. You see, you have to use common sense on this. Does this work? For example, Cecil, going back to Cecil. His position, and he was, I think, fired because of it, but his position was, in education, our standard will be this. Now, we will have Bahamian teachers up to that standard. Say we need 100. So we can only find 80, bring the 20 in. Next year, you can find 90. So you only bring 10 in. Eventually, and you always keep your standard, okay? But people didn't like that. They just got rid of everybody, and you see what our standard is. So you have to use common sense once it is not driven by greed. Now, if you have somebody who comes in here simply greedy and wants to take everything and assume everything is theirs, and we're a bunch of bush monkeys, then I say we don't need them. As a Bahamian people, we should put our real emphasis on education, and that's where we're lacking.
But we continue to put the lion's share of the budget into education, and yet we don't seem to be getting the results. So what's missing?
I don't know. All I can tell you is this: that over in my district, I saw the need for after school. And I can go way back to St. Augustine's Day where I went. The problem in those days was nobody had, most people didn't have electricity, so they couldn't do the homework. Bill Allen and all those fellows were my classmates. None of them had electricity. I think out of 100 boys at St. Augustine's, maybe 3 or 4 families at the very most had electricity at home. So how did Father Frederick? He said, you come there at 8 o'clock. Some rode bicycles out. I rode my horse when it was half day, and other times I rode my bicycle there. 8 o'clock, everybody went to Mass because it was Catholic. Everybody went to Mass. It was years later that I found out Bill Allen was not a Catholic. I thought he was Catholic. But anyway, then you went to class. Then you went to school. You went to classes. At 12 or 1 o'clock, a bus took you home, a route. At 3 o'clock, they picked you up. We had sports, all supervised. Then we have half an hour break. And then we had study hall, big study hall. And then there was a priest at the end sitting on a platform up. And if you had a problem with your work, you went and saw him, he got you through the problem. If I had a problem, 8 o'clock, we closed up, put our books away, closed up, got on the bus and took us home. Okay, now that took care of the problem of not having electricity. Okay, what do we have now? Which I found, and this applies to everybody. Uriah McPhee in Kemper Road. I saw there were some brilliant children in there. But a child would go to school, 12 o'clock or 1 to 3 o'clock, whatever it is, he goes home. Now, what's at home? His mother is out working. If he's got a father, he's out working. But he's there alone. Brilliant. He runs into a problem, as we all did. He runs into a problem, gets frustrated, closes his book, goes to the who's meeting? The gangs. And we say, what's wrong? What is wrong? We have not put any emphasis on our youth.
Mm.
That is the biggest problem we have now. And that is what manifests all these other problems. So we can have all this fancy talk about stuff unless we have these children. Now, I started an after-school program for my constituency. The young lady, as a matter of fact, the mother of the same lady you spoke to out here.
Mm-hmm.
She was a secretary there. She took my political office. It was apartment that my brother and I owned at Executive Printers. We took 3 rooms. We started an after-school program. If you had work to do, there were computers there for you to work on. If you just had reading to do, there was a relaxing chair that you could sit and read. If some writing you had, there was a chair for you to write. Okay. And if you had a problem, you'd go to her, and she would solve your problem. After that, we would then take them home. Now, I spoke to a fellow called Williams, I think his name was. It was at Uriah McPhee, and he was tracking all of this. He told me that the kids who were getting D's started to get C's, and the C's got B's, and the B's got A's.
Mm-hmm. Because somebody was paying attention to them.
Because somebody was paying attention to them,
Mm.
you see? So, you see, this is another controversial thing, and people that scream when I say this. Because I don't mean to think, women, they're allowed to do what they like, get paid the same as men do their jobs, do anything else.
Mhm.
I have no problem with that at all. As a matter of fact, out of 5, 6 campaigns, I think 4 of them were run by women. Okay. Now, but the fact is, when years ago, the mother stayed home, and as the old story,
Raise the children.
the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. Okay. Then she did what she is entitled to do. She started to decide she wanted to go to work. Now, she didn't cause it. The situation was that a vacuum was then created. And rather than talk about how do we solve the vacuum, we start talking foolish about sending women back home and all that sort of nonsense. It's all
Because they ain't
foolishness.
going back.
No, because it's all foolishness. They're just as entitled as I am to go out and get a job.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to recognize that. But times have changed.
And for many of them, it's a necessity.
Exactly. So what have we done to alleviate that vacuum? Sending a mother back is nonsense.
Right.
What have we done? Have we started an after-school programs for these children? Have we done anything? No. I can tell you that you've never seen such brilliant children as some of the ones I saw come out of Camp Road. But some of them are up in Fox Hill Prison now simply because they had nothing to do.
Mm. Oh boy. Okay. I promised before the break we want to talk about the future of the country. I have a Calvin Roll on Facebook saying he's watching all the way from Ontario, Canada. Thank you, Calvin, for tuning in. And I have a couple of texts I want to read. This one says, "Good morning, excellent show. I reminded you when one door closes, the Lord opens a better one." Well, that has certainly been the case here for me. Thank you so much, Dolores Williams, for that text. Another one, Ulysses Ferguson says, "Great show. Thank you, Ulysses." Pauline Colby says, "Amen, Michelle. Amen. Tough times cannot last. Tough people do. Congratulations, my dear. You and Mr. Duputre are hitting the nail right on the head. Read, Bahamas, read. A lot of us don't. And that is why we are ignorant of what's going on. Bahamians are not united. There is always a broken link. That is our problem. You look around and there's no one there. We've got to change that if we want to see a change and make a difference. Continue to preach, my friend. Hopefully someone will listen. Be encouraged. I love your spirit." Thank you so much, Pauline Colby. All right, let's talk about the future of the Bahamas, because I ain't gonna lie. I wake up some days and I look at what is going on in this country and I'm thinking, where am I? This cannot be the Bahamas that I know and love. This place has changed so much. And for the young people out there, they don't know what was before, because all they know is what they have been exposed to in their lifetime. So they don't know. And they obviously, think that this is the way it is. I mean, this is normal, but it wasn't always like this. The Bahamas has, I hate to say it, as much as we have progressed in some areas, we have regressed even more, and particularly in the social ills of this country. And so my question is, what do you envision for the future of the Bahamas? Where would you like to see us going?
If we have time to do it, teach our children discipline, ethics, put a tremendous amount of emphasis on education, training, and then the Bahamas will stay Bahamian. The people who live here and who have a right to be here will grow and prosper. But until that happens, you can't. You will give the country away. Now, for example, again in Freeport, I was in Freeport for a year, and they had strikes and what have you up there. And I knew Wallace Gross very well, and in fact, I spoke to him probably every day. And he said, you know, all of this fuss, he says, all I need is foremen. And so he got his foreman, and he hired Bahamians to do the work. And building around there was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Now, when they sort of fell apart around 67, 68, you found a lot of people from Freeport coming to Nassau for jobs. And you can go to a construction site and say, you were trained in Freeport, you weren't trained.
Mm-hmm.
If you need supervisors to train people, bring them in until you got your own. And this is the growth process. It should have been happening. It should have happened a long time ago before I was born, but it hasn't. And you have to first of all say, this is the Bahamas, and we train our people. This is for our people. Whatever I do as a politician is for my people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Bahamians. Now, that is the only thing we can do. We have to build a solid base that should have been built a long time ago, but it wasn't. And from the base, we can build. Now, the question, of course, is, are you going to wait around for that to happen? And the thing that frightens me is I don't think you will.
Mm.
Consequently, I believe that the future, as I said before, you will find that in 20 years, the Bahamian will be extinct. Well, now, as I said, the only hope is if we get serious and make some serious moves in filling this vacuum that I'm talking about, training our people, and encouraging those of us who've stayed abroad to come home.
Mm-hmm.
And that is maybe a tall order, but that is what I see happening.
Emerson Stanton Roll on Facebook says, what emphasis was placed on education between 1930 and 1960 by the minority rule white government peer? Today, we have many more Black professionals than white professionals in the Bahamas. Thank God for majority rule and the focus on education.
There he goes, black and white. As far as I know, back in the 30s and 40s, there wasn't an emphasis put on education. That was a problem. That was a problem. I don't think that emphasis has ever been put on. I think less emphasis was put, let's face it, he's talking about the UEP or the Bay Street Boys. Less emphasis was put in those days than should have been put. And but that doesn't mean to say that a lot of emphasis was put. Obviously, a lot of mistakes have been made since then.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you see, as long as we sit down and say, oh, that happened with the PLP, rather than facing the problem, this young man is saying, oh, that happened with the white UBP. I don't care if there were green UBPs. They didn't do right. And it doesn't give them the right to say, because I'm black or I'm white, doesn't give them the right to be no good and say that, oh, we in trouble, we down in the gutter because my great grandpa did wrong. Okay, they got to pull the socks up. People, I don't care who they are, they got to pull the socks up and make things work, and quit the nonsense about black and white, and green and blue. If we have qualified people, no matter who they are,
Right.
you should push them. And you have people like AFI, TA2, people like that. They were great people. Dr. Enos, I know them all. Fantastic people. Harry Clinton. And if they were encouraged or let go, and they brought people up, then the country would be far better. But I'm not going to sit here and cry and say somebody's great grandpa caused the problem.
Right.
You see, I'm in a very lucky position. I always say that one of my grandfathers was probably a slave, and the other one was probably a slave owner. So I'm not going to sit down and cry the blues about what happened 100 years ago or 50 years ago or 20 years ago. I'm here now, and I'm here now to do something
Got to fix it now.
that works.
Adrian Mott on Facebook says, oh, for the record, I know it's 1:05, but the decision has been made to let us go overtime because of the fact that we started so late today. So Adrian Mott on Facebook says, Mr. DePuge always has great solutions, but he never got back into politics. In Switzerland, a dynamic young man got a seat in government. He went on a $50,000 vacation with his family. He was exposed, lost his seat, and was fired from public service. Which group for exposing corruption in the Bahamas? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Neither do I.
Okay. Adrian Mott, you got to make that a little bit clearer, okay? We didn't quite understand. All right. So the reality is that one of the things that COVID has done, as I said earlier, is it's exposed all of the dirty underwear. Because, we've been dressed up in a nice frock and put on plenty for perfume. I'm talking we as a nation, but we was wearing dirty underwear, trying to fool everybody. And COVID come and rip
them apart.
Rip the pretty fog off, and now everybody could see your dirty underwear. So we obviously have to come together as a people to make the changes that need to be made so that we don't continue to live this lie that we've been living. You look at what is happening with the educational platform, the issues there. How many people for so long have been saying we need to embrace technology? Way before COVID, people were calling for that. Way before COVID. And we dragged our feet and pretended, we can't be done for this reason and the next reason. And then COVID comes, and all of a sudden you're finding a way to try to make this work that what could have been put in place a long time. And that's just one of very many examples that can be spoken about of how we have allowed ourselves or allowed our leaders to get away with not doing what we all knew needed to be done. And now we find ourselves in a position where, thanks to COVID and the exposure of the dirty underwear, we're scrambling now to try to put things in place to fix these problems.
You see one of the problems, going back to this fishing thing. One of the gentlemen there who was all hung up on color, rather than going to the people in Spanish Wells who are by far know more about fishing than most people do in the Bahamas, rather than saying, look, you've volunteered to help train some other people, take them on. They wouldn't do that because they're white. What they would do, though, they go to the United States and get another white man, bring him in here, and say he can train Bahamians. Now, where does that make sense? We've got to get this foolishness out of our head about certain parts of the Bahamas. That happened years ago, before you were born and before I was born. We have to find out where our talents lie, no matter who they are or what color they are, and say, these are our talents. How can we use them to the advantage of this country? And if it was me, I would take the offer that Robert Roberts made in in what you call Spanish wells,
Mhm.
and I would take people and have him train them how the fishing is done. And this way, eventually, we would have it all behaving.
Acknowledge the talent you have right here in your country. Okay, Adrian Mata sent a message to clarify what he was trying to say. His question was, in the Bahamas, who is there to expose corruption in the government?
Nobody.
Nobody. Not a soul.
The last, and I shouldn't say this, but the last investigative reporter that this country's had, too, that I know of, was Nikki Kelly and Athena Damianis.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, they, years ago, as I said this before, the development board is now the Ministry of Tourism, used to have 3 pigeonholes. One for the Tribune, one for the Guardian, one for ZNS. And you'd go and pick, they'd give you news stories all the time. And my father had a standard rule for us. Go pick up the news story in the pigeonhole, read it,
And then go find the real story.
and then go around, find the real story, find the facts. But what do they do now? They pull it out of the pigeonhole.
Regurgitate.
I know in the house of Zambia, you were there at the time. The Cess and I basically bark for people being able to record the speeches rather than sitting there trying to make notes because everybody's complaining about how they were being misquoted. So what happened? They got it. Some of them pushed the thing, turned it on, and you start to speak. They go out for coffee. They go back to the newspapers. The newspapers say they want 10 inches. They turn the thing on and start typing. At the end, it makes no sense because when you're talking, you have you don't talk as if you're writing a letter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you have to know the whole speech before you understand what the sense of the thing was.
Right.
But when it 10 inches, turn it off, and that was the end of it. No investigation, no nothing. And it was embarrassing sometimes. This is what we have basically today. And I don't want to hit reporters, but this is the way they're done.
Hmm.
But we were told, as I said,
Go find
take
the
it
story.
and go find the story.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Melanie Saunders. Michelle, you must invite Mr. DePuch back. He is full of solutions. We need his voice in our nation. When he was at house, we all wasn't listening to him then. I'm only kidding.
That's
I
true.
agree. He always talking about his age and 1 foot in the grave and 1 foot of banana peel, but he's full of foolishness because this is a young man sitting in front of me, and his voice is still very relevant. And there's nothing like wisdom and experience to bring to the table. There's always for ages there's been a tug of war debate between the young and the not so young, because the young people believe, oh, y'all time finished, y'all move, make way for the young folks, and we have all the ideas and the energy. But boy, I could tell you one thing y'all don't have, and that's the experience and the wisdom that comes with it. And I do believe that it makes sense for us to come together, young and old, because everybody's a contribution to make if we intend to improve this country. Jonathan Sweeting says, we drag our feet for far too long. It is sad to say, and we're still not quite interdependent. All right, Jonathan Sweeting again, everybody needs to make a stand. This is madness to see our natural resources go down and not benefit from it. Our Bahamian people need to wake up and stand as one. Well, I could disagree with you there in terms of uniting. We really do have to come together as a people, put the petty politics aside and start to think in terms of nation, put the aquamarine black and gold ahead of the red and the yellow and the green and whatever color the rest of these bunch of parties coming with. Nation first, country first, people.
Mm-hmm.
We have to get to that point. Mr. DePuch, I just have to thank you so much for being here today. They did allow us to go over time because we did start late, but I don't want to impose on you because I don't know if you had something else planned.
Okay.
You good? Okay. But I just want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for the stand that you took last year when that whole situation went down. Thank you for not just calling and expressing concern, but actually, putting pen to paper and making your feelings known to the entire nation about, what we saw happening there. Thank you for being the person that you are, who always stands for right, who always calls a spade, whether people like it or not. The chips, let them fall where they may. That's always been your approach. And I just want to say thank you for your service to this nation. Thank you for always standing for truth. Thank you for not backing down to the powerful oligarchy. And we need you. This nation needs you. We need people of your testicular fortitude and character to speak to the powers that be in this nation. And who knows? Maybe some of it will penetrate. Maybe it won't. But at least we need to have on record that it has been said. Because I speak this to the rulers of this nation. History will judge you. History will judge you. And as much as you'll try to stifle the media and to censor people and to shut down the protesters, what I see happening in this country, I just can't believe this is the Bahamas, where you're going to have police shut down protesters just because they protested. Mm-hmm. Because you have the power to do so. Y'all better watch yourself, because that smells a lot like dictatorship to me. And if we are not careful, we can just continue in this lullaby sleep, this political induced coma that we seem to be in, while these people chip away at our democracy, just a little bit. The danger is when they chip a little bit at a time. See, if they come and take a big chunk, then everybody stand up and make noise. Mm-hmm. But when you chip away a little bit at a time, people get lulled to sleep. And by the time you all wake up, your democracy gone. Mm-hmm. We need to be careful, people. No man, woman, boy, or girl should believe that they have a right to stop you as a citizen of this country from expressing your concerns in a public forum. And what I see happening as it relates to this effort to shut down protesters, these people, they tripping on power. Back in the day, cocaine used to be the drug of choice. Now it's power. Mm-hmm. We really got to watch ourselves in this country. So let me come off the soapbox. I give you the final word.
I agree with you. We have to smarten up or we can lose the place. Mm-hmm. And as I say, I'm getting old. And the lineup has started. As my good friend, like my brother, was Tim McCartney. He gone a couple of weeks ago, as you know. Mm-hmm. But Tim and I were like brothers. We went through a lot in Minnesota. Tim, Charlie, Christofelis, and I was one black, one half black, and one Greek. And we were up there, and we had to do our thing. And these people, well, Charlie's still alive. He left the country because he felt there was no future here, and he made himself a fortune in the United States. Mm-hmm. And Timmy worked here, and he finally went off to the States and did extremely well at Nova. And he died, the same COVID thing. And that's it. I mean, but young people are coming up, and they have to start taking responsibility. And it bothers me that people are getting the priority wrong. You have to understand that the people, I don't care who they are or what color they are, they're people and they're Bahamian, and they are entitled to everything that everybody else is entitled to. Mm-hmm. You got Ben for me to tell you one more story?
Go right ahead.
I won't call his name, but he was obviously a PLP in the sitting House of Assembly. You probably know him. And we used to put more hell on him than Carter's got liver pills. And one day I was in agriculture, and I got a call from the secretary saying, Mr. So-and-so is here to see you. And I said, oh, you joking? She said, no, Mr. I said, the so, yeah, that's him. So I said, well, send him in. And He came in, obviously thinking I was going to curse him and put him out. And I said, "What's your problem?" And he says, "I have some fishing licenses I'm trying to get, but nobody will give them to me." And I simply said to him, "Are you obeying me?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "You fronting?" He said, "No." I picked the telephone. I phoned fisheries. I said, "Do you have some licenses up there for so-and-so?" "Yes." I said, "Well, he's going to be there in half an hour to pick them up. Please have him at the front desk." Doesn't make me a hero, but he is entitled to disagree with me.
Mhm.
I have a job to do.
And still be able to live.
Yes.
Disagree with you and
I
still
have-
be able
I
to
have
live.
a job to do. Why should I discriminate against him
Mhm.
because he doesn't agree with me?
Because he's not a yes sir.
Yeah.
Lord, say that again. Anyhow.
But you see that you say now, "Oh boy, better not say this because this politician's
Yeah,
upset."
they
But
can
you
try.
had the
Yank your
person.
job.
Yeah.
The man
You
say,
had-
drop
you
the hammer on her.
Yeah, you
Well,
had that.
child, your hammer ain't as big as the almighty hammer.
That's right.
Catch yourself.
That's right.
And I want to end the way I began. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Because you pushed me to my purpose. You pushed me to exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. I would have still been there, working for nothing, getting paid peanuts. Yeah, I saying it. But God wanted me to be here for such a time as this. So thanks to all of y'all who had a hand in it. God is good. Mr. Pierre DeBuche, what a pleasure.
Thank you.
Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the oil. The oil. And I ain't talking about no anointing oil either. Joe Dowell is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. Don't you miss that one. And hopefully, we're going to start on time tomorrow. Right, guys? Better start at 11 o'clock tomorrow. All of the technical issues will be worked out. It's been a pleasure, y'all. This is GPS, Global Paradigm Shift. I'm Michelle Malcolm. Thanks so much for joining us.